Morajo.
Morajo.
Oh my goodness.
Do I need to say it a different way?
Liar. Bite.
Ni Biza. That was the worst.
You sound like Duolingo.
That was the worst.
Again? I'm Krista.
I'm Josh.
My parents were missionaries when I was a kid, and so we traveled a lot as I was growing up. My first time outside the country, I was only 2 years old, and my parents went to India and took myself and my older sister. But I've been a lot of different places because of that. So yeah, I've been traveling most of my life. I think
I've traveled quite a bit less. I'm from California, moved out here and back and forth quite a few times. But first time I ever traveled outside of the country was when I was probably 13, 14. I went to England on a kind of a student ambassador program. So that was really fun and very educational and just kind of shaped me to want to travel more. But until I kind of met you, I didn't travel other than that one big trip. But since then, I've been to several different states and several different countries.
Yeah, because my younger sibling moved to the Netherlands in 2016. And so we've been to visit them a few times. And while we're over there, we've gone to like Germany and Belgium. So yeah, we enjoy it.
What was your first country as you were traveling?
On my own or like as an adult?
As an adult.
Yeah. When I was 19, I went to Australia. That was really cool. It was with the same mission organization that my parents were a part of, but I went on my own. None of my family went and I didn't know anybody. But I loved it. Australia was a place I'd always wanted to go, and that was like one of the best times of my life. And then apart from that, I think the first place I went overseas would have been the Netherlands to visit my sibling after they moved there. And that would have been 2019?
The first time you visited?
Yeah.
No, it would have been after
2020?
After COVID, yeah.
Okay, yeah, so probably 2020 when we went there the first time. We went there together.
21, 22,
Yeah.
So, when was your first trip together?
Our first trip together would have been that trip to the Netherlands, overseas. Yeah, we've been to different states together.
Yeah.
But yeah, leaving the country, that would have been the first time we traveled together.
Would have been to the Netherlands, yeah.
To visit my sibling in the Netherlands, and we went to Germany while we were there too. We drove over to Germany.
Okay, so what was your first experience in traveling? Even if you've been living in
India,
but what was your first experience in Netherlands?
The Netherlands was beautiful. You're wanting to know what time, like when we went, or like what it was like over there?
Both.
Yeah, so it would have been February of 2021, I think. And it was super fun, beautiful country. The pastries were delicious. But yeah, the culture was amazing. All of the buildings were super old. That was the thing that stood out to me the most, was just the age of everything, because America is a relatively young country compared to Europe. So they had like buildings that were from 1420, 1563, I think was one building.
And a lot of the buildings, they have their marker on them that show you kind of when they were built, to kind of,
like carved,
whether it was put in, the year they were built, or at least as an homage to, yes, it was built on this, in 1413. But a lot of them have been built up over time, or during World War I and World War II, when they, were kind of blown up. You can tell the ones that have been like reconstructed and built back up. But yeah, the architecture is fantastic over there.
It's beautiful.
And it's just, it's kind of interesting to see things that are, older than our country, older than anything that we have here. And just to kind of appreciate how old they are. But the people that live there live amongst it and don't,
they don't even notice.
Just walk right past it. But.
Yeah, that's cool.
And so where else did you go apart from that?
We went to Germany for one day. That was really cool. We weren't there very long, but it was beautiful.
It was a day trip.
And then we also have I've been to Belgium, which was beautiful. That was one of my favorite places. And then we've been to Scotland together. We just went there.
That was our most recent trip
year.
for our 10-year anniversary.
We went to Scotland.
We went to Scotland, and yeah.
But you can talk more about that because your family's Scottish, which is part of why we went.
Yeah, last name's Duncan, which is a Scottish surname. And we started our trip in Edinburgh. We met, or not in Edinburgh, we started our trip in England and met with some friends. Of hers, of ours that we met through her. And we traveled up to Edinburgh where we met her sibling and spent a time there with them and their and our nephews. And that city was fantastic. Again, you're talking very, very old buildings, but the architecture there, because it's so Gothic, everything's just massive and quite beautiful. But after Edinburgh, we went up to through the Highlands and up to Inverness, where Loch Ness is, the Loch Ness monster, all that kind of stuff. But the countryside is beautiful. Just kind of 1 minute you're in kind of Highlands, the next you're in the moors, the next you're in the forest.
Farmland, or then there's forest, yeah. Mm-hmm. We rented a car and drove up.
Yeah, we drove through.
Yeah.
And it was
really cool.
Yeah.
But on the way up to Inverness, we stopped at this area that used to belong to the Duncan clan. So like his ancestors used to live there and work the land there. And one of the big lakes or lochs we stopped at, and that was like really cool just to be walking on land that your ancestors used to live on.
It was very neat. Surreal experience. It was good. It was fun.
It was beautiful.
Okay, so now how many countries so far have you visited?
I've been to India and Nepal and Thailand, Australia and Canada and Scotland, the Netherlands, Germany, Belgium, Japan. I've been to about 10 or 11 countries.
I am far less. The UK, so England and Scotland. I've been to Ireland as well. Have stopped in Iceland as a connecting. But Netherlands and Germany as well. And that's pretty much it. I think it's just the four: the UK, Netherlands, Germany, and Ireland.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so what was your experience in India, living in India, even if you are still a little about this?
Yeah, like I said, we went there the first time when I was 2, but then we came back to the States and then we went back to India. We moved there to live there when I was 13. And we lived there for about 3 years until I was almost 16. And I remember kind of loving and hating it. I didn't want to leave my friends here, but the culture, they're very friendly over there. The food is delicious. I love Indian food. And I think the biggest thing that I remember from being there is just always feeling like I stuck out because I was white and everybody else was obviously darker than me. And that was an interesting experience, just being someone who stood out anywhere I went. But it was an amazing experience. I appreciate it more now as an adult looking back. At the time, I always felt like I would much rather be in the States with my friends. But looking back, I'm so grateful that I had that experience and got to be exposed to like such a vastly different culture, because the language was different, the food was different, the land was different, but I mean, it was amazing.
Mm-hmm. So what's the best parts when you're traveling? What do you like the most when you're traveling?
Well, I mean, honestly, a good portion of what I love about traveling is the food. Just kind of trying everything, because I do think that food also like just kind of embodies the culture, of the area. So, some people say, certain food is bland or doesn't have certain things to it, but it's, it's just different depending on where you are. And you can always find something delicious. You know, everyone has something delicious as a meal, but trying like street food and just kind of like quick to go things, stuff that just people would have on a regular basis, not going to like whatever's touristy, just kind of just going to where people go. It's just always a good experience because you just get to experience the culture around you. But yeah, food is a big thing, but it's everything connected with the food is what I really like, is just going able to kind of sit down and see, you know, the locals basically, but just seeing how that way. Making friends that way and just talking to people, chatting. But it's a lot easier to do over food than it is anywhere else.
What is the culture shock probably when you were traveling abroad?
There's not I mean, I've been to, you know, mostly just European, you know, places. So it wasn't a huge culture shock. There's definitely just the way that, you know, just little things, you know, day-to-day stuff you don't really think about, like traffic laws or just the way that they kind of set up their cities. I mean, cities used to be built around like a town center, and anymore, you know, the more we kind of expand, you just don't get that as often. We still have downtown areas, but it's not built around it necessarily. It's just kind of expanding a bit more, and it's just kind of interesting to see how much closer people can be in those kind of cities. It's just everyone's closer together, but that just kind of makes things easier to get around, move, communicate. It just seems like community is a lot better in those kind of areas.
I think tipping is another thing that was a big culture shock, because in America, tipping at a restaurant, tipping in general, like, is pretty expected. But in the Netherlands and the UK, everywhere we went, like, nobody tips after a meal. And that felt so strange. That was one of the bigger things that I was not expecting. Traffic was another thing I thought of. Like in India, traffic laws are like suggestion, or at least when I lived there, which was in 2001, it was scary driving in India because they have traffic laws, but unless you have gone through the courses, you do not know them. It's not easy to pick up, and they just all kind of are everywhere, and there's always motorbikes and stuff. But even in the Netherlands, they had just these unspoken rules of the road that I would never have known just driving there as a tourist. But yeah, traffic and tipping was things I thought of for sure for culture shock.
Being an American and traveling in Europe or somewhere else, does it make you feel like proud as you hear America is a great country? Have you realized that?
I mean, I guess it depends on the situation that you're in. Mostly it just kind of opens your eyes to what other people experience all over the world. I mean, granted, again, I don't have as wide of a range of everything, but it's just great to see where we differ and how also we're very much the same. Nothing really changes so drastically. I mean, the cultures can be so different, but I mean, it's still just people. I mean, they're going about their lives and doing their thing. Sometimes it's in a better situation, sometimes it's a worse situation, but I don't necessarily, feel prouder to be, like for like being American, being over there, but it's definitely like an education, and seeing that, everything is still pretty great everywhere.
Yeah, different perspectives is important, I think. And I think it's tough as an American. Our culture is often perceived as being really like loud or being kind of rude or pushy. And often when people hear, at least in my experience, when people would hear that I was American, they would expect that behavior from me. And then when I was not that way, they were surprised. And so I think it was fun to kind of put a different spin or give them a different experience of what Americans can be like, instead of we're all pushy and loud or something. I don't know.
Yeah, there's definitely a bit of a stigma the friends that we have over there or people that we meet that know we're American, I definitely think have a bit of a precursor. They kind of think they know what to expect, but I mean, yeah, again, everyone's different, and yeah.
Okay. According to the U.S. Department of State, as of 2023, only about 48% of Americans held a valid passport. So there is another one they say. Okay, 87% of U.S. trips are domestic, according to the U.S. Travel Association. So what is the misconception people have, or probably Americans have, about traveling international in America?
I think a lot of Americans think it's scary, or that it can be scary or intimidating. Depending on the country, I think that there's a perception that that America is safe and anywhere outside of it is risky. Part of that, I think, comes from movies. I don't know that it's based in a lot of reality, because in my experience, while there can be some scary aspects of travel, as long as you're prepared and you do your research and you know have a good idea of what to expect, there's nothing scary about it. It's more just, it's not any scarier, in my opinion, than traveling within the United States. But I think that might be the biggest thing, is that people perceive it as, scary. They just don't know what to expect, and people fear what they don't know in a lot of ways. And so I think,
I think a big misconception people get, it's just the actual size of the United States compared to other countries, other areas, especially Europe. But we have our states, but our states are sometimes the size of countries, if not larger than countries. You can go through a couple countries in a day throughout Europe, but in America, sometimes it takes you a full day to get through a state, depending on what state you're in. The other thing I think people also, why it's scary or difficult to travel outside the United States is it's perceived that it's really expensive to travel outside the United States. But it can be. Yeah. But for us, going over to the Netherlands, it's about the same price, a little bit more, but it's about the same price as me flying to California. Yeah. So it's just
not that much more expensive.
Depending on where you want to go. A lot of people in Indiana, at least, they kind of in winter travel down to Florida. Like, it's just kind of that's where people go for vacation, because they think that it's inexpensive. But there's,
flights and your stay and food and all of that,
all of that kind of comes down to the same thing when you travel elsewhere. If the flight is what's stopping you from traveling, then
don't let it stop
you.
And maybe length of the flights too. I feel like some people think sitting on a plane for 8 hours or 9 hours is a lot.
Yeah.
And it can be, but worth it.
Yes.
So what do you think traveling has changed you, the way you see the world?
I think travel is a great way to open your eyes to the world outside of your immediate experience. There are so many different kinds of people who have experienced life in different ways, and it's difficult to think about that when you haven't been exposed to it. And one of the things I've been the most appreciative about traveling and seeing other cultures and countries is the ability to see outside of my small little existence. And I think that builds empathy in us towards others. I think that it is a great way to see how we're the same, like what you were talking about, that people everywhere, we all are still people, we're all still humans, we're all still, living the same kinds of lives. Like obviously our experiences are different and our cultures are different, but we have a lot of commonalities, and I think going to other countries and traveling is a great way to experience that. And there's so much beauty in the world, and so much good food and good people and beautiful landscapes, and you know, staying in your own neck of the woods where you see the same thing all the time. Your experience is just so small compared to what you could be experiencing by visiting other places.
Yeah, no, I mean, well said. Yeah.
I'm going to teach you one word. I'm from Africa, you know that. One word from our language. This is hard. So when you greet, you say bite.
Bite?
Bite. That's
Bite.
to ask how are you. Then
Okay.
you can answer ni byiza. Byiza means good. Ni it's say it's good. Ni byiza.
Ni biza?
Visa.
Yes. So the byiza, I think the sound is hard because it's a combination. I don't know if you have.
You have to use your nose.
Oh, it's like a nasal thing,
Yeah.
like
No, that's
Biva.
not. Bzi.
So
Bzia?
you guys
Bzia?
use your nose and like the back of your tongue.
Ni
Biza?
bzia?
Bzia?
It's B and Y.
Oh,
okay.
like
Biza.
Biza.
Biz?
Yes.
Biza?
Ni biz? Ni biza? Ni biza.
Biza.
So
Which one do you want to say?
I'll say the shorter one. I'll say the bita.
bite.
Bite. Bite.
Ni biza.
Looking
So American.
Did I do it?
How'd we do, Teach?
One more time.
Ni
Okay.
biza. Nope.
Bite.
Ni biza.
Again.
Oh, you said one more time. Bite.
Ni biza.
Last one.
Oh my goodness.
Do I need to say it a
You
different way?
liar. Bite.
Ni biza.
You sound like,
That was the
you
worst
sound
one.
like Duolingo.
That was the worst one. Yeah.
Again?
So thank you for accepting the interview again.